Hello, welcome back. Today I'll guide you through 5 deeply researched transformation hands-on AWS projects that will take you from beginner to expert, and that will give you that confidence and validation that you need, or that recruiters need, to get you the job you require. It is very important, again, that we stress the need for hands-on experience. Yes, certifications are a great way to start. However, they are mostly theoretical, and with cloud computing, practical skills are most valuable. So you need to bridge the gap between just explaining concepts and actually implementing them. This is why I stress the importance of how to leverage multiple services in cloud to build a solution. And how do you do this? By practicing as many hands-on projects as you can and familiarizing yourself with the most important AWS services. So these projects will not only deepen your understanding, but will also make your CV stand out and sometimes irresistible to recruiters. Also, don't forget, as you do this project, find a way of documenting them so you can always point a recruiter to a project you did without just saying, I did this project. Sometimes it gives you that validation and shows the recruiter that you actually did the project by pointing them to where the kind of project you did is documented. Now, the big question is, what projects do I build? Or what projects do you build, and how do you find them? There are multiple ways to go about it. The first one is you can choose to design a personal project and implement it yourself, or you can follow a guided tutorial with instructions of a project that has already been done, proven and documented by an expert somewhere. Usually these projects are projects that are often done by different businesses or different organizations, or they're similar projects. So by taking these projects that are already documented and following the tutorials, it does help you to really understand or get a deeper understanding of what the resources are, what the project is about, what is needed, and just the general overview of how to do the project. A guided project or a guided tutorial is usually my preference, and I usually start with the very basic and fundamental projects and services like EC2, storage, database, security, VPC. Then I build it up to a more complex project. In one of my videos, I shared you 10 different AWS mini projects you can do to understand the services, which are the AWS core services that are mostly used by companies. You can look at that or refer to that project, and it doesn't hurt to just, redo them if it's something you've done before. But if you feel like you're very comfortable with these projects already, with building or spinning up an EC2 instance, setting up your CloudWatch logs or alarm, setting up an SNS notification, or deploying a static website on S3, if you feel like you're already too familiar or comfortable with these projects, then you can follow these 5 projects I'm proposing to you today. And these projects would again take you from a beginner level with very basic understanding of very basic projects that also come up a lot in interviews, and architectural projects as well, because sometimes we forget, we focus on implementation and forget that architectural design is very important as a solutions architect. So these projects are very heavy on architecture as well as implementations. So I'm going to give you a deep dive of different projects, and I'll share links of tutorials that you can follow to implement these projects. Some of them take 2 hours, some take 3 hours, others take 4 hours, and it explains why, because these are more complex projects that you do and get hands-on, and they are on-the-job projects. Also, as you do them, don't forget to be sure to make sure that you understand the architecture you're building, the resources that you're using to build the architecture, and how all this map together to bring a solution to a client or an organization you're looking at. So if it's a 2-tier architecture, 3-tier architecture, whatever project it is, just make sure that you're really taking time to understand it, and you're not just, rushing over to get the project done with. Well, if you're ready and want to start and excited about building this project, let's get started. I will take you through the first project. So the first project here is going to be an architectural based project, but also a beginner level project, and it's just going to help provide a deeper understanding and explanation of what architecture is and how to map architecture to a project based design. This is something we've talked about, and then you might have heard about a lot. People proposing that you deploy a static website on S3. However, it's very important that you understand this project and understand the architecture as it is. Architecture is the core and major skill you really should acquire, as depicted by the name, your role, the solutions architect. And one of the most common architectures that we focus on is the 3-tier architecture, which is the most popular and congregates components like compute, storage, and databases. Also has availability zones and subnets. So it kind of encompasses a lot of the services and resources that are used within cloud computing. And to design an architecture, you're going to need tools. Some of the most common tools used are like Lucidchart, Draw.io to practice such an architecture and focus on understanding how they interconnect with each other. Also, don't forget to focus on the architectural best practices. An example is launching a WordPress website on Amazon EC2. We did talk about either deploying a static website on S3 or launching a WordPress website on Amazon EC2. And I think a WordPress website on Amazon EC2 is really a very good project to do as a beginner when you're starting your AWS project. These are common things that we ignore, but trust me, in the interviewers do ask you questions about little projects like this. So also, don't forget to document this project. You can use GitHub to document your project, or you could create a blog that you can always point recruiters to. Some people have proposed using Medium, to write a project down and share, or even your LinkedIn profile. However, I think a GitHub or a blog is usually a recommended way to go. The next thing is I recommend using either your AWS free tier tutorials to build this, or there's a course by I think Adrian Control, which has free labs on GitHub, and I have listed this below. So follow this one. It's one of the most basic projects you can do. Start with it and let's see how you can build this project, starting with the architecture, understanding and actually knowing how to design the architecture, then implement it by building it so you can reinforce the learning. So for this project, you're going to need to launch an EC2 instance, set up a security group, install WordPress, and then of course access your WordPress website or test it to make sure that it's working. And usually you just use your EC2 instance's public IP address to access your WordPress website. And when you're done with this project, you can highlight on your CV by emphasizing the skills of deploying and managing an EC2 instance for web hosting, which kind of demonstrates your ability to create a scalable web solution. So this is the line you can use on your CV, or just find a better way of expressing the project you did on your CV. The second project I would suggest is an event-driven architecture. And an example of such an architecture you could build is by implementing a serverless web application. It could be any kind of application, maybe a website or even a language application, but one that is event-driven. And a serverless event-driven application is just a design pattern that allows you to build and run applications and services that are automatically triggered based on events. So it enables you to build an application that is highly scalable, resilient, cost-effective, and it also allows you to only pay for the resources you consume without having, to deal and manage the infrastructure. And Lambda will function as your serverless compute service, and Lambda functions perform a variety of tasks. Some of these we had discussed Lambda is basically your serverless compute, and it's just code that you run, and then it takes over or automatically configures whatever it is that you have in your code. Services to use and leverage for such a project are Lambda, SNS, SQS, Event Bridge, CloudWatch, and API Gateway. So you also notice that this project exposes you to use a variety of AWS services and design a solution. Today, there's so many event-driven applications that you can use, and so many companies who are either organizing conferences or have things that are going on need to design and implement event-driven applications. So this is also a very important project that you would want to have on your CV, because it exposes you to the numerous number of resources that are being used to build a project. And to implement such a project, you will need, of course, again, to create a DynamoDB table, set up your AWS Lambda function, create API endpoint with API Gateway, integrate with the front end, and then, of course, test your application. And at the end of the project, you would have an in-depth coverage of serverless application design, API endpoint creation, and integrating a NoSQL database with DynamoDB. So you see that most of those mini projects that I suggested in the other video are being highly implemented here. And with these, it's going to really help you understand how these services function and how they come together to give you a full solution to a problem. Also, don't forget to highlight this project on your CV, and something you can use to put on your CV is like building serverless applications, reducing operational overhead, or utilizing AWS Lambda and API Gateway for a scalable solution. I also linked a sample project with tutorials you can take below, so that you just follow the video or the GitHub instructions to implement this project. Now, the third project I'm going to propose is one that encompasses also different services and different skills, within AWS. And this would be to set up a cloud-native CI/CD pipeline. So when you hear CI/CD, what comes to your mind? DevOps, right? And we know how much DevOps is beginning to be important, or has been important, within the cloud industry. So creating a continuous integration and a continuous deployment pipeline using GitHub Actions and the AWS code pipeline exposes you to the world of DevOps. And just as you heard, what does this do? It also exposes you to using GitHub Actions, which is another skill you'll be showcasing to the recruiters and to the company that you have, in addition to the code pipeline. And this is also very, very important for software development teams, as most of the software, as it uses, the software development lifecycle, or otherwise known as SDLC, which you would see a lot when you're going through job descriptions for a role like a solutions architect, or even a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer. And this is important because it just allows teams to automate delivery processes. And automation is also very, very important, and it's growing a lot in different companies. So you will automate code updates from commit to deployment using AWS code commit, code build, code deploy, and testing with your code pipeline. So some of the things you would do here would be to create a code commit repository, set up a build project in code build, which would be to configure your code build, to compile your code or to run test, and then configure your code deploy by setting up deployment groups and deploy configurations in AWS code deploy for your application. Then you create a code pipeline. In code pipeline, you link your code commit repository and your code build project and your code deploy application to automate the flow from code commit to deployment. And then of course you test your pipeline and make a change in your repository to watch the change automatically build, test, and deploy through your pipeline. So the outcomes of this project is basically just understanding how continuous integration and continuous development pipelines automate the deployment process and integration of code repositories. Now, when you're done with this, you can also add it or highlight it to your CV. Now, the fourth project is one that a lot of people don't talk about, but that I have personally come across so many times during my interview processes, and I've also heard a lot of people talk about them during their interview processes. And this has to do with migration. Migration is a huge topic, and this is a world of digital transformation. A lot of companies are migrating to the cloud, and a lot of companies need migration experts to help advise them or be their trusted advisors as they move or migrate their large projects to the cloud. So with migration, this project I'm going to propose would be about migrating a database using the database migration service. I'm also going to link a sample project you can take below so that you follow this tutorial to the end. And this project basically just involves migrating an existing on-premises or cloud-based database to AWS from on-premises. And you'll be leveraging the database migration service to minimize downtime and to ensure a smooth transition. One of the objectives of this project is to help you or help expose you to understanding how to migrate databases from on-premises to the cloud, as a lot of companies that are migrating to the cloud have so much data and they need to figure out how to get it to the cloud. And if you use the wrong tools or you don't size it right, you might, get the company into trouble. So understanding how to migrate data from on-premises to the cloud is very important. The one that we've chosen for this project is migrating a relational database or a NoSQL database to AWS from on-premises. And mind you, it's also important to note that there are different tools and different ways you can migrate this database to the cloud depending on the size of the database you are migrating. With this project, it will be important for you to understand the Snow family and what storage capacity fits what Snow family. So we have the AWS Snow Cone, we have the Snowball, and we have the Snowmobile. And of course, the Snowball, there's a Snowball Edge, there's an Edge Optimized, and there's an Edge Compute, different edges. And you really need to understand what capacity would fit what Snowball family. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that you understand the architecture involved in migrating the database from on-premises to the cloud. So for you to complete this project, you will need to access your source database by evaluating the database schema, the data types, and the size, and identifying the compatibility issues, with the necessary schema changes. Is it a rehost, a replatform? So depending on that, you would also need to, choose whatever resource it is that would map to the AWS. Then, of course, prepare your AWS environment, create an AWS data migration service replication instance, configure the source and the target endpoints, create a replication task, validate and test your migration, then cut over to the new database, and of course then the post-migration services, which are always required. So it is a very thorough project, and it's important that you understand it, because there are little details that we sometimes ignore, but these are details that they help you understand the project more. And when you talk about them, the recruiters really understand, or the interviewers really understand, that this is someone who has performed such a project before at a very detailed rate. A migration project is not as easy as it is, and showcasing this project on your CV does not only elaborate or emphasize your technical skills, but it also puts you in a strategic place to show or showcases your strategic planning and execution capabilities, because migration is usually a huge project and it comes in very different phases or different waves. So expressing this project or putting it out there really shows a lot of skills, soft skills, in your technical skills, your strategic and your planning skills, and it helps position you in a better place as a candidate. So the next project would be one that incorporates AI, and this is developing a chatbot with Amazon Lex. So this project would guide you through creating a conversational interface using Amazon Lex, AWS service for building chatbots. And you'll learn how to design, to build, and to deploy a chatbot that can be integrated into various applications, enhancing user engagement and providing automated customer support for information retrieval. The objective of this is to build a chatbot that handles basic inquiries about, say, a fictional company's services, or provides information like business hours, services offered, and then contact details, or even how they can help you, taking you to the frequently asked questions. It is also an intermediate to advanced level project, and it's important as it would also showcase your skills, your technical skills in using AI and understanding how to use some of these AI services or tools within AWS to design a solution for a client. I know when we hear AI, we begin to wonder if it's going to start requiring a lot of code and all that. However, it's very easy, because here you're just using what has already been developed to design a solution for a client's need. And to develop a chatbot with Amazon Lex, you're going to define the chatbot's purpose, sign into your AWS console, and access Amazon Lex. And before I even continue, I know you're asking what Amazon Lex is. Just like I explained earlier in my definition of the project, Amazon Lex is a fully managed AI service for building conversational interfaces into any application. So it's a bot that can understand a user input and provide it with a text, and then of course return to you a response. So after you define the chatbot's purpose and you sign into your console and access Amazon Lex, you want to create a new bot. And when you create a new bot, you have to set up the bot settings, and at this time you will name your bot, choose the output, an output you want, voice if applicable, then set the session timeout, just the basic configurations that are required for that. And then of course you're going to design the conversation by setting the intents, the utterances, the slots, and the fulfillment, and then you're going to build and test the bot. So you're going to use the Lex console to build your bot. This process may take a few minutes, but once built, you use this test chat feature in the Lex console to simulate conversations and refine the responses and the logic of the bot. And then of course you would deploy the bot after testing, and after that you monitor and iterate. So you would use Amazon CloudWatch to monitor the interactions and performance. Again, CloudWatch is appearing into another project, and based on your feedback and integrations logs, you can iterate the bot's design and always configure it as needed. So including this project in your CV showcases not just your technical skills in working with AWS with the natural language processing, but it also highlights your ability to create practical user-focused applications. And the experience, this experience is very valuable for roles in software development. And today, with the advent of generative AI and just AI in general, you want to gain a skill that kind of places you ahead of competition in the market. So a project like this would be a very good one for you that will showcase those skills. And it's also a very fun project. I have done this project, and I think this is one of the most fun projects I had, because you could change it to, you could configure your bot however you want and set the responses you want. It's a very fun project to do. So I would also emphasize that you try this project out and maybe do it a couple of times, or try different AI projects, building or developing bots, or even Amazon Connect, or whatever it is that you feel like is important for you to do. Just do it. AI projects are very interesting projects. And also put the link below if you want me. Just comment if you want me to walk you through one of these projects, so you just follow instead of going to the instructions and listing it. I'm very happy to do that. I'm actually considering doing that for all these projects I've listed. So just let me know if you're interested in doing this, and I will take you and walk you through this project. Again, don't forget to document it and also highlight it on your CV. I will put in some of the things you can highlight on your CV after taking such projects. Now, these are my most recommended projects as you prepare for your interview, because they really do expose you to a variety of services and showcase how you can use both your architecting skill and your implementation skill to bring together a solution for a client. Other projects that I would recommend, if you can and if you have time, are like disaster recovery strategy that help explain to you different ways and different services, or help design a comprehensive disaster recovery strategy for an AWS based application. This one would of course expose you to understanding RTO and RPO, or recovery time objective and recovery point objective, that almost every company again always uses. So this is also a very good project. If you can find one, I'll see if I can find one and link below so that you follow as well. It's also a very good project. Another AI project you can do is a serverless image recognition service with AWS recognition. That would also be a good project you can do. I'm also going to find one and link below. Then you can also do one with APIs. APIs really a very popular service that is used a lot, and you can find a secure and scalable API project with Amazon API Gateway and maybe AWS WAF using RESTful APIs, Amazon API Gateway, WAF, and all that to protect it. This also exposes you to a variety of other services that we've not highlighted here, and most of this, there are companies that are looking for specific talent that knows how to perform these services. So these are the projects that will not only boost your AWS skills, but will also showcase your expertise and potential to clients. It's going to help you practice and expose you to a world of so many other possibilities, and help you gain skills which when you started are not basically theoretical. So start building these projects today. Take a step closer to landing your dream job: solutions architect, cloud infrastructure engineer, cloud consultant, and let's see how we can help each other grow together. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe for more guides, and let me know what other videos you would want me to make in the future to help you grow your career, or even just answer your questions. Bye bye.